all these kind of like access that allow you like to hit, cut, and also like hook and do things.
Sure.
So, which is quite cool. Also, they're a little bit heavier, so those are more for like we aim to have these for like pairing or
is a
bigger
big
guys
axe, yeah,
and stuff.
yeah. Hello, Jan. Thank you for
Rob.
welcoming us here today. Can you tell us a little bit about where we're standing right now and how this is used in the production?
At the moment, we are in the stunt area where we, start creating some of the action for Wheel of Time, some of the choreographies for Wheel of Time, some of the wire work, and sometimes we bring the actors also to practice in here or to another place that, they go through the choreographies.
Obviously, the Wheel of Time universe offers a variety of unique combat styles. So how much time do you and the team get to prepare in advance of the production, just like the sequences and pitches for that?
Usually we kind of have about 6 to 8 weeks prior, the production gets in the shooting period. But also because we work on season 1, it gives us already like few years on the show. So you kind of carry the experience from the first one and also like the progression and the cast, like knowing you knowing them. Where you can connect from season 1 and what they can do. So it's actually a lot easier than what it was in season 1. Also, the styles are a little bit more established, but again, you need to push them a little bit harder because they need to show more skill because it's a season 2 and the action is heavier as well. And
yeah, so the characters have more experience, but we're also meeting some new factions and new antagonists. Can you talk about how you scale up the action to meet like the new enemies we're going to be fighting against?
You kind of read the script and you check with the book what is the good balance between script, book, and what we can actually show on screen for real, what we have the time for, and what we can allow the cast go through, and then you kind of feel, okay, let's do this kind of style, and then you start building up, before we start shooting, and you start to do your first kind of stunt-based videos, and you speak with Rafe and with the directors. We had Thomas, Sana, and Maya on season 2, and you kind of show them, do you like the kind of movement we do? We say, okay, for the army, they're supposed to be a little bit more in sync, so let's make them a little bit more kind of, robotic and keep the same style. So you kind of also helps us because in the battles, we get 100 people fighting the cast, but you can only allow for so many stunts. So basically, you end up having the same person fighting 3 different actors in one battle. But because we don't see them in one camera at the same time, we reposition the camera and, okay, you now move to this guy. So it helps when we have a kind of united style for, let's say, the Shoshen army, and then, like different styles for the guy.
Speaking of the Shanjing army, that's a more... Like the first season we dealt with Trollocs and Fades, like essentially monsters, and now we're dealing with a more human type army. How do you keep them like a greater threat, even though they're somewhat more relatable in style?
Well, I think with that it helped, like the gray design of the armor and the helmets. It feels kind of scary, and they're like they do darken the face under, so you don't really see the face of one you fight. Right. So I think that helps, that kind of design. And also because they're good and the armor is kind of like strong, they hit them, they don't really die straight away. So I think that's what's scary. And they die and straight away there is another one there. And because there's so many of them, you feel like that's never gonna end and there's no way, to fight them.
Their costumes are quite elaborate and large, like you say. Yeah. Is there like a feedback sometimes where the costumes have to maybe adjust so you can do what you need to do?
Well, I can show you later, we got some of the costume here, so you can feel the weight.
Okay, yeah.
And then, like you can see the helmet, the vision, and so it is hard. It is hard, and also it's not only the stunts, wearing this costume. We also had the cast wearing the costume. So sometimes we go back to Sharon and say, can we do a little lighter version? Can we make it a little bit more flexible? Can we loosen up this strap? And they're like so good with us. They know that we do destroy their work, but they still try to help, and then make the action also work. So, a lot of the times it is a compromise between the looks, but, it's a teamwork, so.
For the cast members who return from season 1, like you said, they're more experienced. You may push them a little bit. They're evolving their skills. Yeah. Do they have feedback a little bit into their styles of fighting and what they want to do?
Yeah, definitely they do, because they now already know they've been through some training. They know what's better for them, what they feel like better to do. So we, always talk to them, and whenever we create anything, we say, okay, let us know how it feels. We don't want to push you somewhere that doesn't feel natural for you, because it's not going to look great. We want something to come from them and to be their natural movement. So we always talk with them, and we create things. And when we create things and we teach them and we see that doesn't look right, and you can see sometimes they struggle with the things we come up with, we always try to adjust it so it flows better and it works the best for the action.
Would you mind showing me some of the things we have here on display?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Just follow me.
What do we have here?
So here we've got some of the weapons. Some of them are Wheel of Time weapons. Some of them are just the training weapons. So here you can see some of the IL weapons. So you can check the weight. It's really light.
It's very light, yeah.
So you can really fight the whole day and not do any damage to your muscles and joints and stuff.
Of course.
So, and even for the cars, sometimes some of the ILs are really like tiny girls, and you don't want them to really hurt,
sure.
and do some damage, because you want them to be ready for the full season, because just the fight just keeps going on, and it's like every episode is more and more, so you want them to make sure that they make it through the season. When
you're designing fights you have a variety of weapons here, is it very clear from the beginning, based on the scripts, like who has what type of weapon, so from the
kind of, we try to get something that would be that could work for the character, and then we of course run it through Rave and the directors and say, okay, are you happy with that kind of weapon, and does that match to the original kind of idea as per the book or on the fans? And they kind of say, yeah, it's okay, or can we adjust it, make it a little bit, bigger, smaller, a little different design.
Do you ever pitch crazy weapons, like, you should use this?
Sometimes, yeah, like you give them, because they say, oh, can you show us something, or can you find a weapon that, doesn't look as a normal weapon, that is more from a fantasy world. So you kind of, okay, let's do a weapon that is based on something. But for that, we've got like the art department is great, and they do actually draw some designs that when we speak to them or the director speaks to them, right? So they come up with something, and then when we look at it, we kind of say, okay, so we'll make it this size and let's make it balanced, this way, so it actually works as a weapon. So then after they do get some of the drawing and design, we work together with them and with the prop.
Is there a difference in the weapons between what they rehearse with versus what they use on set?
Usually, we've got some of the foam weapons that are from like a martial art, shops and stuff. So if you hit them in the head, nothing happens. So that's what we start with, and it's super light and it's super safe. And once we see that, the skills are there and they memorize, the choreo and something, we start using more weapons that they're gonna use on the day. So basically we use some of these weapons that have like soft tips, they're not sharp. And of course, like here you can see some of the swords, they're made of bamboo. It's a little bit of probably blood from the bottle still on that. So they're light, and then of course, depending on the performer, we've got shorter ones, longer ones, because some of the soldiers are, played by smaller performers or even girls, and in there, so we want to make sure that it does look balanced, so you don't end up having, someone smaller having a massive long sword and getting around. So it's a lot of like variety in there as well.
Which weapons are the most challenging to design a sequence for?
I think I would say that for us was the IL fight, just to make it like unique, and you can see probably in season 1 with Green doing the fight.
My favorite sequence.
Yeah. So that was for us challenging, and also like the most fun probably. But of course, then later you get all these kind of like axes that allow you like to hit, cut, and also like hook and do things. So, which is quite cool. Also, they're a little bit heavier, so those are more for like we aim to have these for like parrying or bigger guys and stuff. Yeah. And then of course, like you get some of the hammers and stuff that are super heavy that you think, okay, that's good for parrying, or someone big like the Trollocs or maybe Loyal can have it and things like that. So
we're talking weapons, but of course a big part of the action is also the powers themselves. And I think just from seeing the first 3 episodes, the visuals and the weave and the power levels of the characters are increasing. How complicated does it get to like design sequences with things exploding and people flying?
Well, it's again, you work together with special effects and with the construction, with the art department. So they design the sets, for breakaway. So we can then put maybe an explosion behind the wall and have it, blown out. Like, so you have the pieces flying around. So special effects showing us some versions of safe explosions, safe like soft debris and stuff. So we know that how far we can push it with using the cast and where we need to swap for the stunt doubles. So it's all in the process, like when we do the preps, so we test everything. And of course for flying, I can take you here. We got the stunt harnesses.
Oh, wow.
So, for a lot of the flying, we use these harnesses that's hidden under the costume, which a lot of the times you have the harness, but you also have some stunt protection like pads and stuff, and the costume. So you got a lot of layers on you that limit your movement.
Does the cast use some of this too?
Some of the cast uses that one. So we also aim like them to practice with these things, and so also we've got the small ones, so that does not make the costume look too bad.
Right,
Because these usually like we get
Make
the
it
girls
stick out.
kind of say, oh, do they really need to wear this? Because that doesn't make our costume look good. Like, okay, let's go with something smaller, which is less comfortable, but it's a balance between those. And then you get the armor here. I can show you.
Oof.
And you can check the weight of it.
Oh yeah.
And then just imagine to wear that for 10, 12 hours a day with the helmet and sometimes the harness and the pads, and then it's rainy, so it is quite physically demanding.
For my last question, like when season 2 comes out, what are you most excited for fans to see from the action and the stunts?
Well, I think that I'm excited to see the difference that they find in the characters and also in their stars, and also like the action, it's all over, it's a lot bigger. Like, it's going to be interesting what they say. Also, as the season progresses, when we get to see some of the IOs back in the scene, and then we get towards the end and the big, fighting, how they find it. So.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much for your time. I
You're
appreciate the
welcome.
walk there.
You're
Cheers.
welcome. Cheers.